I'm joined by Josh Flower. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Aaron, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Could you tell people a little bit about yourself, please?
Absolutely. So, my name is Josh Flower. I live in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and I've been a sales professional, uh, B2B sales for close to 25 years and had a very successful career doing that. But recently, I came to question whether continuing as a professional salesperson was really what I'm sort of put on this earth to do. And it led me to some realizations about myself, some changes that I brought about in my own life that ultimately prompted me to embark on a new journey. And I'm looking forward to talking with you about all the details of that journey today.
Sorry, I'm having issues there. Yeah, cool. So sales, obviously, there's lots of different ways that yeah, and different things with sales, but a lot of people get that kind of horrible, horrible thought when they think of sales, when they think about the really pushy, over the top salesman, the old school car salesman, if you will. So can you kind of dispel some of those kind of fears and I just feel the hairs on the back of my neck coming out when people mention sales sometimes. So can you kind of put some of that to bed?
I'm glad you brought that up because it needs to be said. And I think people are right to feel that way because we've all encountered that slime ball salesperson that is, in it to make a sale and doesn't really have ethics and uses tactics that make us uncomfortable. So I understand why people sort of cringe a little bit when they hear it. But at the higher end, professional sales is about problem solving. It's about helping someone that's got an issue of some sort to address that issue. Now, sometimes the person who in sales we would call that person the prospect isn't completely aware of the issue or the impact that it's having in their lives, whether that's as an individual or for the business that they represent. So that's when it's the salesperson's job to help them become aware of it. What's the impact of the negative and how can it be addressed? And so I introduced myself as a professional salesperson, Aaron, because I sell business to business. I'm not trying to sell, individuals snake oil. I'm out here helping businesses address their business problems. However, now that I've moved into this new arena, and I'll mention it for folks, it's mindset coaching. I am doing more one-on-one sales where I deal with people that are struggling and have issues, but I bring that same, I think, really positive side of selling into my dealings with individuals as well. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. I think it comes down to that kind of philosophy, doesn't it? And that what's driving it really. If all you're thinking about is money and you're not thinking about kind of that relationship with the person over the other end of the phone, or kind of actually bringing them something of value that they want, then I can really kind of skew, like you say, your ethics or what you're actually willing to do in order to get that sale. Really.
Precisely. And I think that you hit on it. There are a couple of key criterias that I would say people should have when considering a career in sales or if it's something that they're attracted to. The first is you have to like people and you have to like interacting and dealing with people. And that includes accepting that people are sometimes not going to meet your expectations and they can be very sort of fly by night and get distracted. And that comes part and parcel with it. So just, knowing that and still having an interest in being in the arena, working with people is number one. And number two is a desire to help people solve problems and to understand what those problems are. And then lobby hard if you think that you can help someone in addressing that problem. Third, fourth, and fifth on the list would be things for yourself, right? You want to make a greater income. You want to do the kind of job that's maybe a little bit more exciting or interesting, or where there's more pressure. I know for some people they'll recoil from the idea of pressure, but I personally really enjoy it. I find it makes life more interesting and fun when there's high pressure situations. So there's all sorts of personal reasons to get into sales, but the first two are the most important. Do you like people and do you want to help people? Those are the criteria people should have, I think.
Yeah. How did you kind of learn the craft then, Josh? Is this something, were you naturally pretty good with people in general at the start? Did that kind of help you, or was it all just kind of trial and error and a bit of training?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So I definitely had an aptitude for it. I've always liked people. I've always been a sociable person. I had an uncle growing up who used to tell me, Josh, sales. He was a business owner. And I guess he could see the, sort of characteristics that I had at a young age. And so he encouraged me to get into sales. But it wasn't until I went through the usual, I think that a lot of people have, which are dead end jobs, jobs that I didn't enjoy, jobs that didn't pay me well enough. And I'm going to date myself a little bit here, Aaron, but I got my first job based on an ad that I read in a newspaper. So, and it said something about, do you want an exciting career with unlimited income potential? And I thought, that sounds interesting. Like, let me explore that a little bit. And so I took the job. And within a few weeks, I realized, yeah, this is difficult. There's challenges, but this is what I'm meant to do. Um, I would say for anyone that is sort of thought about getting into sales, the best thing that you can do is just take a sales job. Go take a sales job, preferably one with an organization that has some training. You don't need prior experience for most entry level sales positions. You just need to have a degree of aptitude. You need to sell yourself in the interview. But once you get in there, if there's sufficient training, just do your best. Accept the fact that you're going to fail and learn in the process. And that's the best way to get started, and then just commit to a lifetime of learning and trial and error, and you can carve a pretty lucrative career out, if you do that. But there's no amount of training or books that people should read at the onset. It's just like, get into the field, give it a try, see if you like it.
Don't know if I was coming through there. Sorry. Yeah, that's the same with a lot of jobs, really, because until you've actually tried them, you don't really know. You think you know, but you don't really know what it actually entails, and how difficult it can be, or the challenges that you're going to face. Right?
100%. And the thing is, in sales, like, I would say to people, like, there's a lot of concern right now about AI and how it's making certain professions and entire areas of work go away. But one thing that, at least for the foreseeable future, is going to be protected is sales, because we still need people brokering these transactions. And so not only is it a place where there's some safety, in these sort of changing times, but there's a multitude of job types that are out there. So try a few different things. I've written a bunch on my blog about how to get into different areas and different industries, and different types of sales jobs that are appropriate for beginners. And it's just about trying some different things. But really, the criteria I would say is, try and find a reputable business, try and find a business that you believe in their products or services, and ensure that there's a little bit of training there, like established training program where you can learn. And then accept the fact, Aaron, that you're not going to enjoy it at first, because you're going to be very uncomfortable. They're going to ask you to do things like make phone calls and deliver scripts and try and get people to do things. And it's very uncomfortable if you haven't done it before, but just pledge to do your very best and commit to that process for a period of time. And you'll know, like, for me, it was a couple weeks. For other people, it may take a few months for them to realize, yes, this is what I'm meant to do. Maybe I don't like the company so much or the product so much. Let me go and find another type of a job, but at least you'll know at that point. So that's what I encourage people to do.
Yeah, it's quite interesting as well. I always think of kind of sales because of that stuff that you have to do, all that difficult stuff that you have to do, and the fact that you are trying to sell a product. That's a really and coupled with the uncertainty as well. It can be a really good gateway into like entrepreneurship and starting your own business, really. Because if you do get into your own business, there's lots of uncertainty. You're going to have to pick up the phone. You're going to have to make them, difficult phone calls. You're going to have to try and sell your product. So it's a pretty good gateway into entrepreneurship, right?
It really is. And, for me, at that stage in my life, so when I took that first sales job, I was in my mid 20s. I think I was 26 years old and had no prior experience, but I was not someone, at least at that time, that was an entrepreneur. And I did not want to start my own thing, but I still wanted to make great money. I still wanted to be at the front lines of business. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to work with people. So all of that really matched up very well. But you're absolutely right. For someone that is maybe in that situation where they're not ready to be an entrepreneur, it's a good gateway. for someone that is an entrepreneur, you likely have some sales skills. You've been convincing people, like the people that are working with you, to buy into your vision. Eventually, you're going to need to convince someone to part with some money to help you grow your business. So, sales skills, you probably have more of them than you think, but they can be expanded and developed. And all entrepreneurs and founders should work on this stuff because it's going to serve you well as you grow your business.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, obviously, we touched on the cold calling stuff. Is that
Yeah.
something you've done a lot of?
I have. So early in my career, like I'm at the point now. So the job that I do now, I'm a senior sales director for a software company. We sell training platforms, other types of software systems, a bunch of services around implementation, administration of the software, the creation of online learning assets. So the deal sizes that I'm selling now are six figures, up north of $500,000. Um, and so my job now is less about the generation of leads, which is cold calling. When you really think about it, that's a lead generation or a marketing function. We're trying to find people that may be appropriate for our business. So I don't do so much of that anymore. Now my job is to go in to qualified leads and really move them through the pipeline and get them closed. But early in my career, Aaron, absolutely. I mean, my first sales job, all I did was make cold calls all day long. And I've got a funny story. So we had scripts, which I recommend for anyone that's new, is script out what you're going to say in your, pitch, right? When you catch someone on the phone. And I was given a script and I was mispronouncing an important word in that script. And my colleagues just let me flounder for over a week mispronouncing this particular word until one day they all burst into tears laughing and told me that, yeah, you're actually pronouncing this word incorrectly. So that was a bit of a sobering moment, where I thought, wow, I'm sort of on my own here because these people let me languish for over a week making this mistake. But yeah, I learned pretty quickly to really nail my script and make sure I was pronouncing everything properly, and I moved forward from there. But yeah, early in my career, Aaron, tons of cold calling experience, and happy that I'm through that phase of my career. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult for people, right? And I think a lot of people dread that kind of cold call situation. I think especially more so now because more people just use text messages and stuff now, don't they? Text message, email, and very, very few people pick up the phone and actually call people anymore.
Well,
So it's
no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
that's right. Yeah, so it's quite a difficult thing for people to kind of grasp doing at the start, I imagine. What did you learn from kind of cold calling? Did you pick anything up kind of skill wise from it?
Yes. So, and you've actually touched on the little nugget that I'm going to share. So the biggest issue that people have, the thing that stops people from being successful in sales, but really anything, is a fear of rejection and a fear of failure. And in this society today, we are obsessed with removing anything that could potentially cause feelings of failure and feelings of rejection. So, the thing that I point to in modern society is dating apps, right? Back when I was a young guy, out on the town, it's like if you wanted to go out with someone, you had to talk to them in the real world. You had to exchange phone numbers, you had to convince them, and you would get rejected when you did that. Now there's this insulation with the apps. And I think it's this, all of this stuff. Um, it's designed to help make our lives easier, but in essence, it's really protecting us from those feelings. So, what I learned as a cold caller was how to eat rejection, how to deal with that, how to take those harsh lessons and, have that impact me personally and then adapt and grow. And it's an important step for anybody to go through, is just get into the arena, get onto the playing field, do your best. I promise you, you're going to learn more from your failures. So as those failures are happening, reflect on them. And this is something that also people don't want to do. Not only do they not want to fail, but they certainly don't want to relive their failures later in the day or in the week. But I'm telling you, failure stings worse than success, makes you feel good. And so if you can put yourself back and reflect on those failures, you're going to draw so many lessons. So that's what cold calling taught me, Aaron, is how to keep working hard, how to keep going back to the, to the well, even when things were not working out for me, and how to push through. And then, of course, how to get better just through repetition. So that was the greatest lesson for me.
Yeah, and that's a great lesson. Actually, it's a great lesson for life in general. Is learning to fail forward, right? Because we're all going to fail. We can't avoid it. We try to hide away from it, and all that does is hold us back and stop us actually progressing in our life and achieving the things that we want to achieve. So we've got to learn to fail and do it properly. Learn to fail. Learn to take the lessons from it, and then improve and take steps forward. And I think that's something. I'm generalizing now, but I think that's something as a society we're getting worse at, not better at, which is kind of worrying.
Well, it is. And, I think like we have to understand that the way that we're conditioned from a very young age is to not make mistakes, right? When you think about how we're raised in school, the idea is to do well on tests and assessments. Doing poorly means that you failed in some way, and so we want to try and avoid that. There's also the feelings of embarrassment that we have when we fail in front of others, and that's very difficult. So I think there's a lot of good reasons why we don't want to fail. But if you want to get good at sales, I've actually created a framework that I teach my clients, and I'll share it on the call today. I call it the S3 framework, or the secret to sales success. And in essence, it's a 6-step process. So you want to learn something new. So when you get a sales job, you're going to learn who you're calling, what you're trying to pitch. So you're going to learn that. Then you're going to try it in the field. And then the third step is the most important. You're going to fail. So just accept it. Don't try and avoid it. In sales, we have um, uh, this thing that we call reluctance, where salespeople don't actually want to make the call, and it's because they don't want to fail. So you just have to make the call. So step 3 is fail. Then you want to learn from your fail, or reflect and learn from your failure. Then you want to adapt your behavior and then start over. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. This is how you get good at sales or anything. I call it the secret to sales success, but it's the secret to any sort of a success. Accept that failure is part of it. Do not try and avoid failure. Try. Just get out there and try, and then adapt and grow from there.
Yeah, that is it's just general great life advice, really. That to be honest, because
Big
that's how
time.
we should be living life and moving forward, especially with sales. And ultimately, even if you're an excellent salesman, you're still going to get rejections, right? I mean, there's no such thing as a 100% record in sales.
There just isn't. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I've had some experiences this year. So again, I've been in the game for over 24 years now. So almost 25 years I've been in professional sales. And I had 2 experiences this year that really rocked me, where I thought everything was done, I'd done all my due diligence, the deal was moving forward, and I just got rocked by a couple of losses. And the sting of those failures, Aaron, it cut me deep, because I did think to myself, boy, I've been in the game so long, this sort of thing isn't supposed to happen to me anymore. But it still does. You will never be beyond it. So the best thing anyone can do is accept it as a fact of life, and just stop trying to avoid it. I think we hear a lot about people being lonely these days, at a time when we're more connected than ever, but we're sort of obsessed with online and our phones. And it's like, you've just got to put yourself out there and interact with people in the real world. Online is great. This is how you and I've connected. It's how I connect with most of my clients in my coaching business. But you got to get out into the field, look people in the eye, talk to them. That's where you're going to meet your best friends. That's where you're going to meet your significant other, or at least deepen those relationships. So we can't shy away from that. We got to realize that if you want to meet Mr. or Mrs. Right, or you want to meet a great friend, you're going to need to go through a few people that are not going to be appropriate, and that's fine.
Yeah, definitely, and it is important that we, sales as well, deepen them relationships. Everything we do in life is relationships, right? We're all
Everything.
people. We're all interacting with everybody, no matter no matter what. There's always relationships involved somewhere along the line. So we've got to get good at that kind of human side of it, building trust, building relationships, being a kind of open and vulnerable to a degree, the way you're able to share who you are and they're able to share who they are, even from a business sense to a point. I get that there'll always be stuff held back, but you have to open up enough to build that trust. uh, and it's crucial, and it's difficult to do that via text message or email, or even like this. Sometimes it's not quite as, I've done a lot of episodes of my podcast, majority virtual, and I've done a couple in person. And in person, it is a lot easier still, because you can immediately pick up on the cues, and there's just I don't know what it is. There's just something, even though we are face to face now, there's just something a bit different about being in person.
100%. This is a very astute observation as well, just about relationships and trust building. I'm really glad that you touched on that because, again, I've been in the business for a really long time and I've had a lot of success in my career. But where I became more successful, Aaron, was when I began to develop and foster greater trust in myself. And I grew into the kind of person that I keep my word to myself. I take good care of myself. I foster the primary relationship with myself. And that allows me to bring a better energy out into the world, both in, personal relationships, but I've definitely noticed it in the business arena is there's a greater honesty that I'm bringing out and I think a more of a vulnerability because I'm proud of who I am and people can see that. And how that translates is that magic word you used is people trust you faster. And so part of my message today, and I know this is going to be a winding conversation, but is for people to begin to develop that relationship with themselves and begin to trust themselves. And so there's a lot of different ways that I do it, that I'll share today. But um, that's going to get you the success that you want in the world. It starts with your relationship with self.
Absolutely. I found a stat actually that, I think it was from Salesforce that I produced this stat saying that high performing salespeople, 3.5 times more likely to focus on personal development, compared to their peers, which shows that the two skills, are, like we're talking about, go hand in hand, right? To become a good salesperson, you have to be willing to develop as a person. Um, and I think if we are willing to develop as a person, it's not only sales that'll benefit. I think our entire lives benefit, no matter what job you do, no matter what kind of situation you're in, if you're single or a relationship or wherever it is. I think it can only help you.
It, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one thing I want people to know today that are listening is this isn't a sales pitch for you to become a salesperson or even get into sales, but just know that your human relationships are situations where there's influence and persuasion happening at all times and where people have different objectives of the relationships and situations in life. And so learning like this skill set, learning how to understand other people and listen to them actively, learning to understand what they need from a given situation, knowing how to persuade them when something's in their better interest. All of this, these are life skills, and so if you want to practice them professionally, like in a sales role, great, but they'll help you in any role that you're in. And underpinning that, Aaron, you're absolutely right. Personal development. I'm not surprised to hear that stat, um, because I'm obsessed with personal development, and I won an award just a couple of years ago as one of the top 3 sales reps in my entire industry. We've got over 1,000 companies in the industry, so my success in sales I attribute in massive part to my commitment to personal development.
Yeah, I've always been interested in it myself, and I've gone. Don't get me wrong, I've gone through phases where I've been better at it, sometimes than others. But I've always had an interest in it. I've always tried to develop some level. But there's some people out there, quite a lot of people actually that I see, they're just kind of happy with where, just kind of live in this cycle that they're in over and over again, where they just go to work, come home, watch TV, don't improve anything, and they just keep reliving this same day over and over and over again. And then, 30, 40 years down the road, they're going to be filled with regret, really, is the way I see it. Um, what kind of mental barriers do you think people are facing that is forcing them to live that way?
That is a really good question. And couple comments. The first thing that I'll say is that the decision to advance one's life is a decision that they ultimately have to make, right? And every person needs to make that decision for themselves. And I think as people that are on this path of self improvement and self development, the very best thing that we can do is be an example. So live the example and try and inspire other people to catch the fever, if you will, and want to come along on that journey. But ultimately people need to decide for themselves that they've had enough of their current existence. So for me, I think you asked about barriers. I think the biggest issue is that people are not being honest with themselves about what they truly want, coupled with possibly not believing that they can achieve what they actually want. And when you don't think that you can get the body of your dreams, or when you don't think you can make $1 million a year, or get the dream spouse, or whatever the thing is that deep down in your soul you want, it gets very easy to not be honest with yourself that that's something that you want. And I'm sure you've experienced this in your relationships where someone had a grand vision, for what they wanted, but as time goes by, they sort of make excuses about how it's not that big of a deal, or I don't really want that. I mean, that would be nice if that happened, but I don't really mind. And that to me is that gradual concession on the thing that that person wants. And so I think all we can do is show people what's possible, and hope that they get inspired. And then what I challenge my viewers on my Instagram to do, or the people in my coaching business, is just to get ruthlessly honest about, if there were no barriers, if there was nothing in the way, how much money would you make? What would you look like? How would you interact with others in the world? Let's define that optimal state and then begin to hold that in our mind's eye as our goal.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I kind of look at it like a lot of people maybe don't even talk about what they want. They just kind of whinge about what they have rather than talk about what they want. And they work is shit. This is crap, and just kind of, but then do nothing to change it, do nothing to improve their life in any way. And that doesn't have to be financially. It doesn't have to be money. But ultimately,
Hmm.
if you're miserable in a job and you're earning, I don't know, £30,000 a year, and you could go and get another job for £30,000 a year where you're actually a bit happier. You still might not be ecstatic, but you might be happier, and then you've improved your life a bit. And they're taking them little steps. I don't understand why people don't do it. It just really blows my mind.
But you've touched on something though that's, pardon me, very important, which is when people are looking at the situation and circumstances of their life as an issue, when they're complaining, that is a victim's mentality. You are choosing to look at the circumstances and scenarios of your life as the problem, instead of realizing that you're empowered to actually change those things. Problems are there for you to solve them. Problems are not there to just complain about and wish away. They're there for you to solve them. And so moving from a victim to an empowered person is how you change your situation, right? And so that's what we need people to do, is just get out of this, be frank about it. So it's like a childish victim's mentality where you're blaming your parents or your siblings or your job or the economy or who's the president or, whatever is the reason that you're upset, and take responsibility. It's your responsibility. Block out the noise, focus on what you're meant to do. And I've got some techniques that I would recommend if people are in a rock bottom situation. If you're hearing us talk about this and saying, yeah, that's me, I'm a big complainer and I hate my job. There's a step that you can take. Okay. And this is the step. Set your alarm for 30 minutes earlier than you've been doing, and prioritize the first 30 minutes of the day to some healthy steps that you are going to take for yourself, both to build self trust, but also to begin to show yourself that you've got power. And how you do that is waking up earlier is a little bit difficult. So you are going to become more empowered. And there's many steps in this process that I teach people, but ultimately what we want you to do is look in the mirror and realize you actually have the power to control your thoughts and your actions and change your world. We just need to incrementally remind you, or maybe show you for the first time, that you do own this power. How do we awaken it? So that you can actually change your life. But Aaron, not everyone's meant to be on this path. There are people that are just can't even wake up 30 minutes earlier. So, this life isn't for them, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's more for the people who kind of feel stuck in their career or personal life, I
Yeah.
guess, and they want to do something about it, but they're not sure what kind of steps to take. I suppose is probably more the people that we're talking about.
Well, for those people, this is my recommendation. So set the alarm 30 minutes earlier, wake up, make that a non-negotiable. That's the only non-negotiable that you have, is you set a wake up time and you do it 7 days per week. You get out of bed, start your day by reading something that is positive. So I read Stoicism, I read Stoic philosophy to prime my mind and put me into a positive mental state. Then I do something called a regret reflection, where I simply sit there and I ask myself, my conscience, what do I regret from yesterday? What were the areas that I'm not proud of myself? Regret is not a choice. Regret is simply a feeling. Your conscience will tell you, you shouldn't have slacked off at work. You shouldn't have eaten that extra slice of pizza. You shouldn't have had 3 beers at the pub. And then your job is simply to take that information that your conscience is giving you and try better today. Do a better job today. So I do that regret reflection for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then into some physical activity. If you're way out of shape, just do some body weight squats or some jumping jacks or take a walk around the block. If you're more active, maybe introduce a gym routine first thing in the morning. But if you do this simple morning process for 30 days, I promise you, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel more empowered. You're going to believe that you can change other things in your life because you've introduced something that prioritizes you as your very first thing in the day. You don't reach for a phone. You don't think about work. You prioritize you. It's a beautiful thing. And that'll change someone's life, if they can do that.
Absolutely, your mindset determines your trajectory. So you can control which direction your life goes in, and I equate it to being similar to the stock market, really. So you can get your mindset right and get yourself on an upward trajectory. There's still going to be ups and downs.
Yes.
It's not going to be a perfectly linear process, but it's better than being on that downward trajectory that you're already on.
Well, and that's it. And a big part of my program as well is giving up vices, right? So the vice, I define a vice as something that gives you short-term pleasure, but there's a downside negative to it. So it actually hurts you in the long run. So this would be things like alcohol, drugs, pornography, distraction, right? Things that all give us, satisfaction in the moment, but then later we have feelings of regret, or it impacts our health, or it affects our sleep, and thus we're not the best that we can be. So I advise my clients to drop all of those things. And people are probably getting an idea now that, yeah, that stock market analogy is a good one. The more you do these things and just kick out the things that have a negative downside and hold you back in some way, gradually you're tilting that arrow upwards. And it's going to feel like sacrifice, right? It's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel like you're not having as much fun. Your friends are going to make fun of you, perhaps, if you love to get together and go to the pub. But if you can persevere, your baseline of contentment is going to move up, and your baseline of the feeling of control in your life is going to move up. And that is the person that is actually going to change your life. It's not getting a promotion or winning the lotto, or it's you becoming better and then creating more opportunity for yourself just by becoming the best version of you. So that's in essence what my program is. It's helping people create the best version of them and stick to it as well, Aaron, when the going gets tough, because I promise it will. You won't want to wake up. You won't want to go to the gym. You won't want to skip out on the drinks. But if we can just get you to stick to it, it'll really change your life.
Absolutely. I think that's key as well, that them difficult moments will happen, and they still do happen for even the best people, but they have that kind of determination and that discipline to do it anyway, to keep the promise they made themselves, and build that trust in themselves.
I love that. Yeah, and that's why, we talked at the beginning about that personal trust and how valuable that is in creating trust with other people. So here's the thing, right? Most of us are very used to breaking promises to ourselves, right? How many times have you said to yourself, "I'm going to switch that behavior on Monday. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to stop eating poorly. I'm not going to drink this month." And then we break those promises to ourselves, and it seems innocent at the time. We have an urge, we succumb to the urge, but breaking those promises erodes that trust in ourselves. And so the expectation is not perfection, but what we want to do is gradually start introducing new healthy habits that we make non-negotiable for two reasons. One, so the healthy habit benefits us, but more so we can start creating a foundation of trust with ourselves. And so that's why for most people, I'll say just pick one habit to start with. Maybe it's just doing 20 air squats per day or 10 push-ups per day or waking up 30 minutes early. Set it as a non-negotiable for 30 days. At the end of the 30 days, let's pick another non-negotiable and add that in. And over time, we want to stack more and more and more. And soon you're a person that keeps his or her word to themselves. And that person becomes pretty dangerous over time.
Josh, I think that's a great way to do it, because if we look at where we are and where we want to be, it's easy to be overwhelmed, isn't it, with all this stuff that we need to change, all these things that we need to implement and do differently. So just making them small changes, building that trust in yourself and then adding to it is probably the best way to go forward, that we will actually more likely stick to.
Yes. And that's it. We just need a plan that allows us to stick to it. And changing 8 things at once is a recipe for disaster. It can work, okay? So I want to let everybody know that it worked for me. So a little bit about my story. I was an alcohol abuser, I was a marijuana abuser, I had all sorts of vices. And I'd had periods in my 40s. So I'm 51 years old now, but I'd had periods in my 40s where I had been sober at one stretch for close to 3 years. But I always sort of fell back into the bad habits. And I woke up one day in my, when I was 49 years old, and I just looked in the mirror and I said, "That's it. I need to change everything. I need to drop all the vices. I need to switch my diet. I need to start training 7 days per week. I need to turn my life around, because if not now, when?" And so I had the advantage of being under some pressure approaching my 50th birthday and feeling like if it was now or never. But most people don't have that sense, I'm guessing. Like if you're 32 years old, you may just know that you need to stop vaping or you need to cut down on your drinking, but it may not be that same sort of pressure experience that I was feeling. So if that's you and only you can decide, then the incremental approach is the best one, because we can just gradually change one thing at a time and build up that muscle of self trust. And then you'll be able to change anything in time. And it will not take that long. Like in a year, your life will be different if you just start with one new habit today.
Yeah, it's that self belief that you build in yourself by doing those things, I think, that will then enable you to make the bigger changes and it'll just snowball, right?
Indeed. And that's the thing is once you hit it, it's momentum, right? And the thing that makes it so hard in the beginning is you have none, right? You're just getting that stone moving for the first time. You're pushing it, and it's so difficult. But this is also why I decided to get into coaching, because the biggest issue people have is not informational, right? It's not like what should I do? How do I start training? What should I eat? All that information is out there. It's how do we apply it in our lives? How do we actually follow through? That's the biggest challenge people have. And, we're coming up on January, Aaron. So we're going to see all those new people at the gym for a couple weeks, right? But once that initial, not even momentum, but initial excitement wanes, they're not going to show up anymore. That's when they need some assistance. That's when I would suggest people need a coach to push them to stick to it 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks. And then the momentum really kicks in. And now that's a habit. And so that's why I got into coaching, because I just saw people all around me trying to make changes. I saw it in my own life, all the times I tried to make change and wasn't able to do it. So once I figured these things out for myself, I thought I got to help people. I got to help people implement these difficult habits.
Yeah, we all need a bit of help, right? I mean, no matter who we are, we all need a bit of support. Yeah, I mean, even the best athletes in the world have a coach, right? And they have a lot of them now as well. They have the sports psychologists and stuff like that as well to help them with their mindset. We all need someone to kind of bounce ideas off to support us when we're having difficult times to keep us moving on the right path.
We absolutely do. And you know what? We are social animals, right? We do well collaborating, cooperating, helping one another. If you look around at this incredible society that human beings have built, that's been done through cooperation. And there's an angle of competition to it as well, right? And so a coach is someone that is steps ahead of you and is challenging you to move up with them and offering you a hand and guiding you. They're going to time collapse your the amount of time that you need to reach that higher level. They're going to show you what's possible. And the other thing, people are reluctant to spend money on a coach for all sorts of reasons. But when you put real skin in the game, when you say it's not enough that I just want to lose weight, but I'm actually going to make an investment of my hard earned money, and I'm going to ask someone to hold me accountable, someone that's not here to be my friend, but is to hear it to help challenge me and push me to get there. That is a bold statement. You're exponentially increasing your chances of being successful when you make that kind of an investment. And I say this as a guy that's been a happy customer of coaches for 7 years now. I spend oodles of money still to this day on coaches each year because I want my next level up. I constantly want my next level up. I'll never stop looking at people that are further down the path in the areas that I care about and asking myself, how can I leverage their expertise? You know?
Yeah, and I had this conversation the other day actually about that's how the human race has got to where it is today with technology and everything else because we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? People make all these
Precisely.
great progress and developments, and then they teach us in a shorter amount of time how they did it, and then we build on that and create, and that's how we keep snowballing and coming forward, and that's how we keep making all these amazing developments, not only in technology and throughout human history, really.
Healthcare, all of it. You're absolutely right. It is an exponential sort of growth that is happening with humanity now, generation by generation. And you're precisely right. It's standing on the shoulders of giants, and it's like in innovating further and further and further. It's absolutely incredible. And so that's what I would say to people is don't try and do this all on your own. I mean, there's no pride in just doing it on your own. What you actually want is the result. You don't want to go on a diet. You want to get a better body, right? You don't want to get a better job. You want to earn more money, or you want greater responsibility. So just realize what you actually want and then get there as quickly as possible. But I promise you, I mean, it's the reason that books have been so valuable for human beings for the last 200 years, since most of us learn how to read, is those are shortcuts. You can read something in 10 hours and distill someone's entire, all the lessons they've learned in their entire life, and you can distill that in 10 hours. Now it's going even faster, right? We can get Audible books and listen to them on 3 times speed and crunch through 2 a week, and it's incredible. So just, yeah, leverage the tools that are out there. Find someone that is where you want to be and pay them to help you get there faster. It's a shortcut. It's a hack.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think there's a reluctance, especially kind of in the UK, I think. I don't know if it's like that in Canada or in the States and stuff like that, but there's a reluctance to pay people for knowledge when they think, oh, well, the knowledge is out there. But ultimately it's about how you apply it. Like I can find pretty much anything on the internet knowledge wise, but
It's
then
all there.
implementing it and putting it into action and whatever else is a completely different ball game. And then when you throw your emotional self into it, because you can have your ups and downs and everything else, and it's it's just not that simple. And I think we wouldn't just like I've got children, so I wouldn't just go, don't go to school, figure it out yourself, all the information's out there. You wouldn't, would you?
No. And so one of my mentors has a line that I love, and he says that we don't have an information issue, we have an application issue. The information's there. It's all there. Every diet known to man is there. Every workout, there's tutorial videos on literally everything that you need to do. It's all there, all of it. The issue is, how do you force yourself to do it? And that's why I'm a professional salesperson, but in the coaching arena, I refer to myself as a mindset coach, because it's not about here's a workout plan, or here's a diet plan, or here's a, how to stop drinking alcohol plan. It's how do you actually hold yourself to this? Because newsflash for everybody, the only one that can change your life is you. You have to decide. All a coach is going to do is be a catalyst for you to decide. And that's why hiring a coach who resonates with you is so important. Like, don't take a referral from someone else. You've got to know that you will listen to that coach and that they have a way to um, push you to make the change in yourself. But make no mistake, it's all on you. If you're not happy with where you're at, you're going to need to change it. So start thinking about the books and the coaches and the resources out there as nothing more than catalysts for your own change. But you've got to change. So I hate to break it to people. You're going to need to go through the discomfort of change if you're not happy with something in your life. It's just the way that it is. Why not get some help with that? Because it's one of the worst things in the world, going through change. Much like failure, Aaron, everyone tries to avoid change. People would rather stick with their terrible habits because they're familiar than change them for a better outcome. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's the old saying, better the devil you know, isn't it? Everybody wants to,
Yes,
yeah, this isn't great. This isn't great, but at least I know where I am with this. Yeah.
exactly.
It's
I'm used to this.
it's wild. But ultimately, you know, people do need some support really. And some people are lucky enough to have that in their life. They might have some great people in their life, that they're friends with, or family members that do help them with that. But it's if you have a specific goal and you, like you say, somebody's further down that path, why wouldn't you leverage that and use that to accelerate where you want to be? I just think having somebody there to like kind of run ideas off, like you say, you have to do the actions yourself, but having somebody, because like I could have an idea based on something I've learned to get me down that path, and I could not speak to anybody about it, and I could be going in a completely the wrong direction, and I won't figure out until it's too late. Whereas if I got a coach, maybe they've had that before. Maybe one of their clients, maybe they've done it themselves, and maybe they've made that mistake, and they go, "Well, actually, I did this, and this is what happened with me." And it might get you to rethink kind of your strategy or your plan.
Exactly. And that's the value of it. And what I say to people is like, earlier I was ragging a little bit on the m- modern technology in the dating arena or in the social arena. And, but there's also tremendous opportunities there, right? We can be more plugged in with people that are living the lives that we aspire to live or have brought about the change that we dream of changing in our own life. And they're all out there, and we can follow along and we can learn from them free of charge. So this is something that I do is I live my program on Instagram every day. I show when I wake up in the morning, the steps I take in the morning, my workouts. I show the foods that I'm eating throughout the day, and I talk to the people that follow me and let them know what's going on in my world. And I do all of this just to show them this is how I live my program. These are the results that I'm getting. And most people will follow along with that for weeks, even months, before they'll ever inquire with me about maybe helping them in some way. And that's beautiful. So, what I would say to everyone that's out there is go and start finding mentoring voices. You don't have to pay a cent. Just find people that are living in a way that gets the results that you want. And eventually, you'll find someone whose voice truly resonates with you. That may be your coach, but only you'll know, because they will have a way, they will have an impact on you. You'll think about that video you watched and how it affected you, or maybe you'll start bringing about changes based on what they talk about. And that would be someone to consider investing in. Hopefully that's me, but I just want people to go out there and find the mentor that's right for them, because I think it could have such a dramatic impact in their lives.
Yeah, it's about finding that relationship again, isn't it? We've gone full circle almost back to the relationships and getting, deep, meaningful relationships that can help you, progress with your life.
Big time. And and then here's the thing, okay? So I believe that all people have the same purpose. And then I believe we actually have two purposes. There's a primary and a secondary purpose. So I believe that our first purpose is to create the best version of ourselves. And so we do this by switching all of our bad habits out, introducing all good habits, and living a good, clean life that promotes health, wellness, happiness, success. And once you get on that path, your secondary path will become obvious to you. And what happened to me was, I had this successful sales career. I made plenty of money in my career, very comfortable living. But once I really began to love myself, Aaron, and build the best version of myself through the sacrifices, right? Dropping the drugs, the alcohol, the vices, waking up early, going to the gym, eating right, getting lean, it became obvious to me that I need to help other people. This has been the greatest thing that's happened in my life. I have to help other people. And that's what it is. When you start to love yourself, you are going to want to relate with others even more. You're going to see others that are in a difficult position, and your heart's going to ache for them. And you're going to want to find a way to help them. And you're going to hope to inspire them in some way. But this is the way to actually build true riches in your life. It's not chasing the money, it's taking good care of yourself, showing yourself love first, and then just see what happens. See what happens. But most people that I know that are on this journey eventually think to themselves, how can I help others wake up to this reality that I've created for myself? There's no more satisfying feeling than that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more actually, because that's part of the reason I've started the podcast as well, to
Yes.
kind of encourage people to get on that journey and to get to this place where, you know, it just brings a level of calm to life, a level of mental calm where I don't worry about other people anymore. I don't worry about what anybody else thinks or nothing like that. Whereas I used to a lot, and I used to really impact who I was and what I did. But just being able to shed that has just been so freeing, and just it's changed my life, to be honest.
Oh yeah. And then I know that you're on this path because anyone that would create a podcast and donate their time to find other people that have a positive message and then put it together and build an audience, it's like you're clearly trying to have a positive impact on other people. And that's, the only people that think in that way are people that are on the path of taking good care of themselves. And it's a never ending journey, of course, right? It's like you said before, there's no perfection here. We all make mistakes. We all have moments that we regret. But when you're on this path, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And you also touched on something, Aaron, that I just want to really beat the drum on, which is all of those little insecurities, all those feelings of, concern about what other people may be thinking or feeling, they fall away when you show yourself love and when you become the authentic version of you. Because the authentic you, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. And by the way, a percentage of people are not going to like you, but that's okay. They're not meant to like you. They're drawn to other people, not to you. So be you and attract the people that truly like you for who you are and like your message. You're going to be much happier when you do that.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned as well, actually, over this kind of journey that I've been on. And like you said, there's no finish line to it. It's a constant journey, right? A constant until the end, I suppose, until we take our last breath. It's that constant journey, and I think if you think you've hit a finish line, then you've just stopped growing, really, and that's unfortunate. I don't want to ever get to that point.
Me neither.
But it is about attracting the right people, right? And it's about the power of attracting the right people and not having the wrong people around you. Where if you pretend or you kind of pleasing other people, you will attract the wrong people, and you'll have the wrong people in your life and around you, and it'll make you miserable.
It will, because it's not the authentic you. And I'll tell you, let me relate this to the online space, right? So for any of us that are creators, and that's what I do. So again, I show my life on my Instagram page because I want people to see the real me. And I want people to decide I like this guy or I don't like this guy. And if you don't like me, that's fine. I wish you well. Go and find someone you like. But there's a pull that people have that are online of how can I increase the number of followers that I have, right? How can I get more fans? How can I get more customers? And oftentimes people will rely on gimmicks and deviate from their authentic message to try and get a larger audience. But I would suggest it's better to continue to be true to yourself. Yes, put out the best content you possibly can, make it as attractive as possible, but you need to know what your message is. It needs to be authentically you. And then that is what is going to attract the right people to you, whatever the volume is. If it's meant to be 1 million people, fine. But if it's meant to be 5,000 people, that's fine as well. But you've got to be you. And I think you can take this out into the real world as well. Just focus on being, again, the best version of you. Who are you? What do you like? What's your character? What are the values that you have? What is going to make you proud in your skin? Because no matter the success you achieve in this world, no matter how much money you get, no matter how great your house is or how beautiful or handsome your spouse is, if you're not happy with who you are and how you live, you're not going to be satisfied in your moments. You're going to look at the fast car, you're going to look at the bank account, and it may bring you some fleeting joy, but it's not the essence of the contentment that you truly want. You only get that by being the authentic you.
That's so true. And when you talk about kind of how many people you reach as well, especially on social media, everybody's big on getting kind of more followers, how many people you reach, and all this stuff. Whereas, we don't think about it like even just going back before social media, so kind of probably pre 2005, really, when Facebook started getting big. If you had a room full of 200 people who would kind of listen to what you had to say, that'd be amazing, because that's a lot of people sat in one room listening to what you got to say. Whereas now we get 200-300 views on a post, and they're like, oh, nobody's seeing it. Well, there's still a lot of people, especially if you're putting out a lot of content. Then one a day, you're reaching a lot of people over time.
And you know what else is, would you rather have a 500,000 people that followed you because you made a funny video that they just thought, oh, this guy's kind of funny, but don't are not really attracted to your true message and could never really benefit from maybe the services that you're offering, what's the value of that? Like, I would rather have 200 rabid fans that believe in what I'm saying, are trying to live life in the same way, and could potentially be customers that I could help. That to me is a better situation. But we're people. We get charmed by the numbers. We think that the numbers over here will mean more money in our bank account or more fame or whatever the thing that we think is going to make us happy. But again, I'll just say it. Nothing is going to make you happy. It'll give you temporary pleasure, yes. But the only thing that is going to make you happy is being proud of yourself. When no one else is looking, how do you conduct yourself? How do you live your life? Do you follow the steps to build yourself and love yourself? Do you avoid the things that hurt you? If you do those things, you are going to be content. You said it before, Aaron. You mentioned something about just this almost like a feeling of satisfaction or just like contentment, right? It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing, and I want other people to get to that point. It took me 38 years to get to that point, so I'm hoping that I can help people get there sooner. Because if you can get there sooner, there's life gets so much better, and you can kind of live on your own terms. You can get to where you want to actually get to a lot younger, and just have a more fulfilled life, really.
And so I've got two kids as well. I know you're a parent, and my kids are young adults now. So my son is 22 and my daughter's 18. And they're at an age where they're at uni and they're learning, and they're partying with their friends and they're drinking. And there's a phase of life when that needs to happen, when you have to go through these experiences. But one of the reasons that I really advise people to get rid of the vices in their life, is in particular the substances, is because the substances, they rob you of your current moments, because they get you thinking that a future moment when you get to satisfy yourself with that vice is somehow an enhanced experience. So if it's Tuesday and I'm at my job, but I know that on Friday I'm going to have drinks and I'm going to, spend time with my mates, Tuesday at the job is now a lesser experience. It's not so much that Friday is a better experience, but Tuesday is also a lesser experience. And so, and then there's the negative downside of the aftermath, right? The hangover, the impacted health, the lack of energy. So you don't go to the gym on Saturday because you had too many pints on Friday, and all of these things that they're back steps. They take you away from the feeling that you actually want. And so giving these things up seems like a big sacrifice, but over time, two things are going to happen. Your health is going to improve, but more importantly, Tuesday is going to feel better. All these moments where when you're washing the dishes is going to feel better than it used to, because washing the dishes used to be a negative experience. Now it's just an experience in your life. You want to get to the point, folks, where your life that you live, even the difficult moments, you're still grateful for those moments. Because those are the moments of your life. The more you can be grateful, even when things aren't good, the happier overall you're going to be. So stop viewing things as positive, negative. This is good times, this is bad times, and focus on something that will allow you to just appreciate all the moments of your life, even the hard ones.
Definitely. Ultimately, we only have the moments that we're currently living in, right? So right now, we only have this moment. Whatever's been has already been and gone. We can't change it, and what's to come, we have no control over it. It could change in an instant. So you only really have the moment that you're in at any one given time, and that is what life is. So we have to make most of those moments.
We do. And I don't know about you, but for me, I was big into this lifestyle of good and bad. A lifestyle where I was almost constantly judging the moments that I was in and almost rating them, like this isn't a good moment, or I'm bored right now, like I'm maybe doing some grooming, right? Like I'm shaving my head or something and this is boring. And I just got to this point where I realized that, like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm alive. It's a miracle. If I just change my mind about it and realize that I get another day to experience this life, even the mundane moments. Um, but this is why for me getting rid of the vices was important, because I think for anyone that has an addictive personality or would put themselves on the spectrum of being an addict in some way, so you can't live without your drinks on the weekend, or you can't live without your marijuana vape at the end of a long day, you are putting a lot into those moments. You're putting those moments almost on a pedestal in your life, and I promise you it's downgrading the other moments in your life. So this is why I preach sobriety. Is it will be painful at first, yes, but over time, that baseline that you experience moment by moment will move up. So give it a try, people. You know, if you know you're an addict in some way, give it a try and see what happens after a period of sobriety, 60, 90 days. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, I think we're all addicts in some way or form. It seems to be these days, anyway, with the kind of phones and stuff. They're very good, aren't they, of keeping us
Oh,
hooked. How often, and I'm guilty of it myself, just like facing my phone constantly. So, and that's proven just as bad, right? You get dopamine release from watching like the silly videos and everything else that you watch on TikTok or Instagram, wherever it is. So, and that can be just as bad, right? So, but I'm guilty of it, and it's something like I don't particularly drink. I don't do anything else really. I go to the gym. I'm probably a little bit addicted to that, but
that's a good
apart
one.
from that, I'm a phone. But I do need to. Yeah, the gym's not a bad one. It's not a bad one, but I do need
Well,
to kind of rein in the phone side of it.
but you know what? So not everyone is an addict around substances. Like, I've got a family member that has a very good relationship with substances. He's not tempted at the times that he shouldn't do them. He doesn't put them up on this massive pedestal. He'll just enjoy a specialty cocktail that he enjoys on a Friday evening, you know. And so some people can handle it. It's up to the individual. If you realize that you find yourself longing for those occasions, or thinking like, when, could I have a little bit of weed tonight, even though I made a rule that I wasn't going to have any, but maybe I should because there's a match on. Those are the moments where those are the signs that you may have an addictive personality with these substances, and so it's important to get rid of them. But things like the phone, Aaron, food is another really hard one, where you have to interface with these devices, or in the case of food, you must eat each day, right? And so learning how to control something that you must have exposure to is really difficult. um, but I do have some tips on how people can do this. So, and let me preface it by saying this, okay? When you chase pleasure, so that's the dopamine hits of the phone and all of these, eating the naughty foods and everything. When you chase pleasure, you're basically telling yourself that the current moment is lesser and you need the pleasure to improve things. And that's a very negative way to think about life, is that I need this thing, or this thing is giving me something that is satisfying myself. So I want to encourage people to embrace a concept that is, again, not maybe I need to work on the marketing a little bit of this, but just hear me out. When you intentionally introduce difficulty and discomfort into your life, it has an opposite effect, where your regular moments now improve in quality. So I'll give you a few examples. Going to the gym is a difficult thing. You've learned to fall in love with it, as have I, because over time you fall in love with that experience. But it's a very difficult thing. But the reason people that go to the gym promote it is because of the health benefits, but also because it makes your life better, because you're forcing yourself to do something difficult. When you go in a cold shower, people ask me, I don't take full cold showers anymore, but I always start my shower for like maximum cold, and then after 30 seconds I warm it up. And I simply do that because it's difficult. Like, that's the only reason I do it, is because it's difficult and it makes me uncomfortable. The more you can embrace discomfort. So when your phone pulls at you to watch those funny videos, um, what I'll do is I just turn it off and I put it on the bookshelf over there. And then I observe how every fiber of my being wants to grab at that phone and satisfy myself. And instead, I just live in the discomfort. I just experience it. I say, oh, this is what discomfort feels like. This is what not getting that dopamine hit feels like. And I just exist in that feeling. So the more you can tolerate discomfort, and you'll have to introduce this into your own life, everybody, because again, life is set up to eliminate your discomfort, work from home, comfortable blankets all over your house, a television here and there, and great food in the fridge. You have to force yourself into the discomfort, but just make a point of doing it each day. I promise your overall baseline will go up. I mean,
Definitely. And like you say, the gym is a really good example because when you start at the gym, it is really, really difficult, right? And it takes, it takes a lot of time before you get into it to the point where you're like, this is great. I really want to keep doing it. And even more so now, I've done it for so long, it's got to the point with me where if I don't do it, there's actually a massive dip in my mood, and my mental health goes down a bit.
but hey, so you're speaking like a mindset coach, because this is so I'll give everybody a little bit of a hint of what a mindset coach like me is going to try and get you to do, okay? We're going to eliminate the bad habits. We're going to introduce the good habits either rapidly or incrementally. And then we're going to ensure that you stick to them to the point that Aaron just described, where you cross over and begin to realize the benefits. And you will not realize those benefits at first. It will all be like an over investment. That's how it'll feel on your part. Same with the early morning wake up, by the way. Even if you're waking up 30 minutes earlier, that is going to be painful and you're not going to like it every single day when your alarm goes off. But you will cross over at some point, and it's different for everybody. Maybe it's 30 days, maybe it's 60 days, 90 days, but you will have a crossover moment where now you can't sleep in. Now you can't avoid the gym. Now you can't eat poorly. And that's when your mindset has shifted. And everyone can get here. I promise you. You know, if you're struggling with something in your life, you can get here, but it's not intuitive. You have to force it until that mindset shift happens. But it's happened for me. It's happened for you as well with the gym. I never miss, Aaron. Never. I have to be bedridden or I'm going to the gym. If my arm hurts, leg hurts, I'm going to the gym. I can't miss it. And I feel like you're probably in that category as well.
Yeah, it's just become part of my life, to be honest. I've done it since I was 16 years old. So,
Love it.
and before that, I've always done sport or something active. So, it's kind of ingrained in who I am now. It's kind of part of my identity, and I think that's what happens when you do these things, not just the gym, like the stuff that you're talking about. It becomes part of who you are. You build that confidence in yourself that I am this person that goes to the gym, or it could be, I am this. It just builds trust in yourself, doesn't it? It's like we say. So whatever it is, I'm a person who's willing to do difficult things even when I don't want to do it, and that kind of builds some sort of belief in yourself and self confidence, really.
Precisely. And that's why the program, and again, I maybe need to work on the marketing, but the program is that you need to do difficult things until they become easy is the wrong word, but they become a part of who you are. Like it will always still be a challenge to go and push yourself in the gym. It will always be a challenge to avoid eating the wrong foods, but it gets easier. And once it's a part of your identity, you can execute on it regularly. But that's where true self pride comes from as well. When you can operate in the world and know that you are not a victim, back to what we were saying at the beginning, a victim of a nice smelling cake or an opportunity to be lazy when you still have work to do. Like, no, we want you to be the kind of person that chooses for themselves what they're going to do based on what they're responsible to do. And that's when you become truly empowered, but this is a learned skill, everybody. You don't just flip the switch and have it. You've got to just put in the work, put in the consistency. And again, this is what a coach can do. Can give you a game plan, But more importantly, I say to my followers every day, it's the accountability. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to make sure you're tracking your calories and your macros. I'm going to make sure that you're going to the gym. I'm going to make sure that you're executing on the steps that we've agreed to together that are going to be your responsibility. And then we'll get you there. Then eventually we take the training wheels off and now you're pedaling down the street on your own, you know?
Yeah, and yeah, and I think it's important as well that you are going to fall off. So use the bike analogy. You're going to fall off. So it does help sometimes if you have somebody there to pick you up, dust you off, and get you going again.
And encourage you that this is normal part of the process and it's okay. You know, we're going to keep trying and we're going to keep going. And it's not a straight line to success, to any success. Um, but the more you go down this path, people, I'm telling you, the easier it all gets, and then your capacity increases big time. So I'll share another personal example, Aaron. So in my career, you know, and again, it's like high ticket, high pressure sales, and I've got major responsibilities. I'm literally personally responsible for the success of the company and the success, you know, to make sure that people get paid their salaries. You know, I take that's one of my responsibilities. And you know, so I work 40 to 50 hours a week in that job. And I decided once I went down this health journey myself that I wanted to become a coach. And so I looked into it. I got a mentor to help me with this process. But in essence, I've had to layer on a second full time job on top of my high pressure full time job between the promotional work, the videos that I need to shoot for Instagram to promote what I'm doing, to recording videos all day long to show people how I'm living and capturing moments in the gym, to coaching my clients that I have. All of that has to happen on top of my job, on top of my responsibilities as a husband and a father and, you know, a community member. But the better I've got at trusting myself, at doing the hard work, at saying, yes, I have to do the work and I can't go for the pleasure, the more my capacity to handle this work has gone on. So when I was first doing Instagram, when I was first doing coaching, I thought I thought I'd have a heart attack. I didn't think there was any way that I could keep up and do all the work. But now I can do it all and I'm able to carve out free time for myself. So I just want to encourage people to realize that if you go down this path, you will become a higher functioning person. And this is the person that will get the success that you think that you want, that is going to make you happy, more money, more success at work, maybe an entrepreneurial endeavor. You becoming better is what is going to allow that to happen. But the dirty little secret is once you achieve that success, you're going to realize the success wasn't really what you were after. It was the feeling of pride in yourself. And you can have that. You can have that just by living in this way. So start down the path is what I encourage everyone to do. Be honest with yourself. If you're not happy with something in your life, take on the responsibility. Stop blaming the food. Stop blaming your mom. Stop blaming, you know, your work. Take responsibility. Start doing something about it. I promise your life's going to get better.
Absolutely, that's great advice. Josh, if people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So I've got my website, which is joshflower.com, just as the name sounds, everybody. And you can reach out to me there. But what I really encourage people to do is if you're on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, because you will not only see how I'm living my program every day and you'll get some insights into the things that I coach my clients on, but you'll determine in a short period of time whether mine is the kind of voice that could have an influence in your life. And if so, please message me on Instagram and I'll help you with any questions you have. But certainly, if you want to really take the next step and get into a coaching relationship, I would love to speak with you there. And so my Instagram profile is Josh Flower and then the number 1, Aaron. So it's just Instagram.com/Josh Flower and the number 1.
No problem. I'll include a link in the show notes for people to make it easier for them to kind of find you and stuff.
Amazing.
Josh, before I bring this to a close, is there any kind of final thoughts or messages that you want to leave us with?
This has been such a great interview, and you've touched on so many of the things that are important to me and that I really believe in. But I guess I'll just reiterate something, and that is that for everybody listening, I want you to understand that you have only been given one tiny sliver in this universe that you control: your thoughts and your actions. That's it. You have no control over what's happening in politics, in the media, with the environment. None of these things. Yes, we can care about these things. Yes, I want you to be a active citizen. I want you to be an informed citizen, but I want to remind you that your responsibility is your life. And if you think of humanity as one great big long chain, each of us has a little link, and it's important that we take care of that link. So I want you to take on the responsibility of making sure your link is strong, making sure it's shiny. All right. Take control of your thoughts and your actions and become an inspiration to the people around you so that they do the same. This is how you can actually change the world, but it starts with you. So invest in yourself, commit to yourself, clean up your life, get on the right track. And if I can help you, please reach out.
Some incredible advice. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Aaron. You're a great interviewer, and I truly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
No problem. Take care.
Bye now.